There are stories that are not often told because they make us uncomfortable. Not because they are untrue, but because they are too real. Stories that do not fit into the simplified romantic ideas we often repeat about love, marriage, and patience. The story of Barira and Mugith, may Allah be pleased with them both, is one of those stories. It is not a story of villains and heroes. It is not a story of love that triumphs. It is a story about choice, dignity, and boundaries, even when tears are involved. And perhaps that is why it remains so relevant today. Barira was an enslaved woman. She lived under conditions that limited not only her physical freedom, but also many of her personal choices. In that context, she was married to Mugith, who, according to most reports, was also enslaved. With time, Barira was freed. And with her freedom came something that Islam established clearly and revolutionary for its time. When an enslaved woman is freed, she has the right to decide whether or not to remain in her existing marriage. This was not a formality. It was not a symbolic gesture. It was a real right. Barira reflected, and she chose to separate from Mugith. The narrations tell us something important. Mugith loved her deeply, in a visible, intense, and desperate way. He was seen walking through the streets of Medina behind her, crying, pleading. His tears fell onto his beard as he tried to convince her to return. Barira, however, remained firm. There is no mention that Mugith was cruel. There is no claim that he was unjust. There is no report of abuse. There is only one uncomfortable truth. She did not wish to continue the marriage. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, observed the situation. He saw Mugith's pain, and his heart, filled with mercy, was moved. He approached Barira and spoke to her, not as a judge, but as a compassionate intercessor. He suggested, he did not command, that she reconsider her decision. Barira then asked a question that would mark the history of ethics and rights in Islam. She said to the Prophet, peace be upon him, "Is this an order, or is it only an intercession?" When he replied that it was only an intercession, Barira calmly and clearly stated that she did not wish to return to Mugith. And the matter ended there. There was no pressure. There was no religious guilt. There was no emotional manipulation. Only a decision that was respected. The Prophet, peace be upon him, then made a statement that was recorded in Sahih al-Bukhari. Are you not amazed by the love of Mugith for Barira and the aversion of Barira toward Mugith? A short sentence, but one filled with deep human meaning. This story unsettles us because it breaks a widely held belief that love alone is enough. Mugith loved, but Barira did not feel the same. And Islam did not turn that one-sided love into an obligation. Here lies a powerful psychological lesson. Unreciprocated love, no matter how intense, does not create a right over another person. Emotion cannot be imposed as a moral debt. Mugith was not wrong for loving. His pain was real. His suffering was human. The Prophet, peace be upon him, did not mock him or dismiss his feelings. On the contrary, he interceded for him with tenderness. But he also did not turn Mugith's pain into an argument against Barira's autonomy. And here we see the ethical balance. Compassion for the one who loves, without sacrificing the freedom of the one who does not. Barira was not portrayed as cold, arrogant, or ungrateful. She was simply a woman exercising her right to choose with dignity. She was not told to endure, nor was she instructed to practice patience as a form of emotional self-erasure. The Prophet, peace be upon him, understood something essential about human relationships. A marriage sustained only by the sacrifice of one side is not justice. It is exhaustion. This story establishes a clear precedent. Even when someone suffers because of love, that suffering does not make the other person responsible for it. And even today, this remains difficult to accept. The story of Mugith shows us how love can overflow when it is not reciprocated. When a person's emotional identity becomes entirely attached to another, rejection feels like annihilation. Islam does not romanticize this state. It does not celebrate it. It observes it with compassion, but it does not turn it into an ideal. Healthy love is mutual. Obsessive attachment is not. One sign of emotional dependency is when one's stability depends entirely on the other person staying, even when they no longer wish to. When dignity is lost in the attempt to hold on. When "I love you" becomes pressure. Barira teaches us something equally important. Protecting the heart does not mean hardening it. It means recognizing when a relationship is no longer just for both sides. Saying no can be an act of honesty. Setting boundaries is not cruelty. Choosing oneself is not selfishness. In marriage and in relationships, Islam protects both emotion and dignity. It does not force love. It does not turn one-sided sacrifice into automatic virtue. And this leaves us with a profound question for today. Are we seeking true compatibility or merely emotional intensity? Because intensity without balance burns, and commitment without choice becomes a prison. The story of Barira and Mugith does not ask us to take sides. It asks us to understand the complexity of the human heart and to learn how to love without possessing and how to let go without hatred. Perhaps that is why the Prophet, peace be upon him, did not end this story with a ruling, but with a reflection. And now, that reflection belongs to us. What matters more in marriage? Compatibility or romantic feeling?